Today I'm making 5-layered meatloaf, and I've boiled a head of cabbage, and I've boiled these ones I'm going to use very well, but not quite done. I'm going to cut the spines off them, and don't throw your cabbage away that you boiled, the whole head. I've cored it. You can see it's been cored. I put it in here and boil it, because I'm going to save it, all this, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in your... Now I'm going to quickly blanch my broccoli in this container, or in my strainer I mean. I don't want it done very much because broccoli cooks very fast. And do not throw out your cabbage water or your potato water. We're going to use it for our gravy. Okay, I've taken my bacon. I've sort of weaved it into a little flat nest. I'm going to take my cheese and put the cheese in here. And I'm going to put the broccoli in on top of it, and I'm going to roll it up. And I've put it on parchment paper because it's a little bit easier to roll. It's on parchment paper. Put my broccoli in. And remember, you don't want to make this too big because it does have to end up going inside of a meatloaf. So, try and use my parchment paper to get it going. I've got it inside top of another piece of parchment paper because we're going to have to do the cabbage next. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a roll, as good as you can. Give it a little bit of press. And leave it on your parchment paper. Because then now I want to put down the cabbage. And the cabbage I already had cooked. And I cut the spines off, so it'll be a lot easier to roll onto with the spines tore. Just flatten them out a little bit. This is going to be so delicious when it's done. Now I'm going to put another cabbage in here. I like cabbage, so this can be... And the reason I cooked the cabbage, pre-cooked it quite a bit, is because cabbage takes a long time to cook. So you're only going to have our meatloaf about an hour, hour and a half in the oven. So you want to make sure everything's cooked. Okay, put my cabbage down. With my little roll up here. Off the parchment paper, try and hang on to it. Put it onto the cabbage. Now I'm going to try and move all this out of the way. Now I'm going to roll the next piece of parchment paper and roll my cabbage. I should be able to roll it. It shouldn't be that hard, especially with the cabbage. But the next piece of parchment paper we're putting down is going to be for the potato. The cheese is going to be the binding agent in our potato. So I'm putting down parchment paper. Give it a spray with tab. So you want it to lift off, and then we're going to roll out some mashed potato on here. And it'll just lift off a lot easier. Okay. Now I've sprayed my pan, and I've kind of let my potatoes cool off. Because they'd be pretty hard to work with. You'll scald yourself if they're too hot. You see how they're kind of sticky? That's exactly what you want. So, lay them down. And remember, you spray that parchment with Pam and press it out. You don't want it too thick because this all has to go inside of a meat. So you don't want a huge, huge, huge roll. And here's our cabbage rolled up and waiting. And I forgot to mention, I dried my cabbage off with a paper towel because you don't want that wet either. So it'll be hard to stick. So, take my cabbage roll out of here. That parchment paper. Set it on my potato. There's the parchment paper. You can see what I'm doing. Looking delicious already. So put the parchment paper, release it. I'm going to use the same paper when it comes to my meatloaf. I've already sprayed it with Pam, so may as well. Close up the ends as good as you can. It should be nice and sticky from putting the quarter cup of cheese in it. Give it a little bit of a roll, a good roll. Make it nice and round in here. Make sure it's stuck when it closed. So nothing gets out of it, and you can't poke your meatloaf when you're cooking it either, because you don't want it, nothing leaking out of here. So we'll roll it a little bit. Put that in the fridge. I'm going to show you the hamburger. 2 pounds of hamburger, very fine grated onion. I have my mixture. I have my Meat Magic, 3 eggs, teaspoon of pepper, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of garlic. I'm going to mix it all together. I like to mix it in here because then you know your spices are going to get spread all around instead of just clumping in one spot. And I'm also going to add between 1/2 cup and 3/4 cup of breadcrumb, just plain breadcrumb, because the egg and the breadcrumb is going to act like a bonding agent to hold everything inside of your roll of meat so it doesn't fall apart in the oven on you. So, I'm going to get that going. I'll be right back. Okay, I've set up my hamburger. After I mixed my hamburger, I set it aside for about 10 minutes and just let the crumbs swell so it'd be nice and like thick, not runny at all. And press your hamburger out. You don't want it too thin, but you want it thin enough so it'll actually wrap around this. Now I'm taking it out of the fridge, my potato. It's been wrapping pretty easy. It's set and cooled off in the fridge for a bit. I'm gonna set it in here. Now you need your hamburger thick enough so it's actually gonna wrap right around this. So I think the sides are good. So bring it up. Use your parchment. Remember, spray your parchment paper with some Pam or something. It'll come off pretty good. Give it a roll. Give it a roll. How's it doing on that side? Pretty good. We're gonna close it right up. Fold up the ends. Make sure you have a pretty good seal on it. And don't throw away your wrapping paper because we're not going to use this parchment paper. We'll make sure it's all sealed up. Seal up the ends. Make sure it's all sealed really good. Then use your parchment paper to lip it into your pan, and I have a pan sitting here waiting. Make sure it'll fit in your pan. This can be so delicious when it's done. And I told save your potato water and your cabbage water because we're going to make you real nice gravy, just a bit to put on here, for the gravy to put on it afterwards. I keep an eye on it, tuck it in very good, tuck this in. Look at that, beautiful. Now we're going to get our gravy before I put this in the oven. A little bit at the bottom. Okay. Okay, I've got my beef stock boiling here. All I mixed up was a cup of flour with water. It's very thin. Make sure there's no lumps in it. Now my meatloaf, before I put it in there, I used the rest of the bacon, put a little bit of butter, Montreal steak spice all over it, put the bacon on top. I'm just going to put a little bit of juice in the bottom. Okay, I think this is ready. It's boiling pretty good. I'm going to thicken it up. And then we'll have some gravy for after. We cut it and serve it. Oh, it's gonna be so delicious. I want this pretty thick. We have a nice gravy. Can you check and see it? I don't think it's thick enough yet, no. And boil it on high. You wanna keep it on high. You wanna keep it at a rapid boil. That's how you stop from getting lumps. If you do get your lumps, strain them out. No one will know the difference. And before you make this mixture, make sure you taste it and it's what you want. I used the water from the cabbage, the water from the potatoes. I added 4 tablespoons of beef stock, tablespoon of pepper, tablespoon of salt. Okay, I think I'm gonna add a little bit more. Yes, that should be perfect. That's good to go. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Nice and thick. And I'm only going to add about a cup of this to the bottom of the hamburger because you don't want it to get all wet and gross. So, use my plastic measuring cup that does not get hot. Put it in there. You have to put it on both sides because it's sitting down pretty flat. There we go. Now I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm put it in the oven about an hour to an hour and a half, but an hour I'll check it. And put it at about 340 degrees. Okay, my meatloaf's out of the oven. It was in there 1 hour and 20 minutes. I did crack a bit, you can see. And I forgot to tell you, you can leave the parchment paper on, rolled in. That way it's easier to lift out of the pan if you've never done this before. So yeah, you can leave the parchment paper on there, staple it shut, and it'll hold together very well. It'll be easy to lift out. Okay, it's all done, and I've plated it with some fresh cucumbers and some bacon. And if you want, just pour some gravy on top.